Let's welcome in Bobby Manning for the Celtics postgame show. Celtics go down. Back-to-back losses to LA teams. This one to the Clippers, 114-111. This was an annoying game and kind of a weird game, and a lot to be frustrated about. There are some things, some positives we can draw from it. We're going to get Josue. We're going to get Sherrod joining us from LA in a little bit. So hang tight with us till then.
People are piling in already.
Yeah,
Angry.
I sense it coming here. Real quick before we get started, tell you about a couple of sponsors here. We have LinkedIn. We want to welcome in LinkedIn Talent Solutions as a new sponsor. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find candidates you want to talk to faster. Go to linkedin.com/garden. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So make sure you check that out. LinkedIn, lots of love for those guys. And of course, com.com/garden.
Good way to start this one.
Everybody stay calm. We will get to it eventually. 40% off a Calm premium subscription, #1 sleep and meditation app. So go get yourself some. We're going to need it after tonight's game. So, Bobby, I'll give you first crack here at this one. It's really hard. I mean, I'm saying first crack. I just the turnovers alone. The turnovers and the turnovers are mind-blowing because they weren't pressure turnovers. They were sloppy, just drive into nowhere and throw it to no one turnovers. Just careless. And you could tell as soon as they decided they didn't want to play sloppy anymore, they stopped. But not until they had 23 turnovers, like midway through the third. Then they cleaned it up, but made a run too little too late. Another one of those games where they decided to play a quarter or two. And this is what you got. And you lost to a team without George, without friggin' Leonard. It's a really bad loss.
Yeah, execution was as bad as it's been all season. That smart lob over Tatum's head cost you the game in the end.
Yeah.
Just a brutal play there, and you can't knock Smart. He was the one driving many of those comebacks.
No, but he threw it like it was to Rob,
It was just a horrible play and just emblematic of how this game went for them. I thought Horford made some sloppy plays. The defense was a mess down the stretch.
Was bad.
Yep, Rob had probably his most turnovers ever. I didn't check that, but
dude, it's not only that. I mean, he had 6 turnovers on like 12 touches. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah. The Celtics didn't really know where to go when the Clippers showed zone. And again, the thing that stuck out to me most was down the stretch there, leaving Kennard open in the corner, overhelping, Horford not getting up around a screen on Reggie Jackson's 3 late in the game. I thought he was pretty late to rotate over to Marcus Morris on that big one that ultimately decided the game too, made it 6 there. The execution just top to bottom here. I think everybody had massive mistakes in this one. I don't think effort was the issue per se. We're going to toss around a bunch of words here of just how disgraceful this was, but just an attention to detail, I think. That shouldn't be an issue this deep into the season. Defensively, not being in the right spots, not clamping down on BJ Boston when he gets going. Can we start there? You've been covering the team a lot longer than I have, John. In my time covering them, I don't think, and I don't want to diminish Boston.
How many guys have had, what you're going to say is how many guys have career games against the Celtics?
No, I don't think a worse player has smoked the Celtics like this.
No, we've had a few of them. Last year, there was a couple.
I mean, this guy was in high school about a year and a half ago, and he just came in, hasn't done much in the NBA at all yet, and punked you in that second quarter. Again, another game where the Celtics, I think, set a good tone early, played some decent defense, hit shots. I think they were 52% or so through the first. And then this guy just comes out. He's going after Smart, and he's making fun of the Celtics turnovers on one of those plays, picks up a technical, and just keeps going at you repeatedly downhill on the break. And you did nothing to stop it. It was unreal how they let him get going. Really, without a jump shot, he hits that deep one, and Richardson got out there on it, but they did nothing to clamp this guy down.
There were a couple last year, too. I know, was it James? You also had the Mo Brown game, the 2020 game. The Celtics have had a few guys have career nights on them, but it is really frustrating when it happens.
Mo Brown one's a good one. He ended up being
There were a couple last year, I remember. A couple for sure. But Yeah.
And now Boston will live on in infamy. People will be figuring out how to get him for years. I mean, the Celtics did pass on him in the draft. He was one of the trickier guys for me. I mean, he was on my radar there. I didn't really know what to think
when
of
you're
him.
at that point in the draft, what did he go, 30?
He went 51.
Oh, 51, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all flyers, you know?
Yeah, he was a top pedigree guy out of high school though, because he just had a horrible year at
Yeah, he was a blue
Kentucky.
chipper.
Yeah, so the talent's there for sure. It wasn't mind-blowing to see him do it, but this early in his career when he hadn't done much through the first 26 games or so there was surprising. Just surprising as a whole to give up 114 to a team that doesn't have George, as you said, hasn't done much on the offensive end aside from him this year. You have some shooters there. The shooting's excellent on LA. But overall, in terms of playmakers and guys that really scare you in terms of creating offense for themselves, there's not a ton here. But you let Jackson get going. Man took it to you early. Marcus Morris, I don't know if he's had his revenge game yet against the Celtics, but this was certainly it. Again, I came out of the game yesterday feeling a lot worse about the defense than you guys did. I think you guys thought it was more of an offensive issue there. You were just getting blown away on the defensive end right now by everybody. The paint defense is a disaster. Rob unplayable in fourth quarters for various reasons is a big issue. And I just see more and more Horford looking burnt out by the end of these games. Did a few good things early in that fourth quarter, but by the end of it, just struggling to get out on guys.
Yeah,
so that five position's a problem for you right now.
Ime's got to decide what he wants to do here with this because it's just not working for him.
Yeah, and I said that last night. I'm a little tired of this rotation. The starters with Schroeder aren't playing well. They're minus 12 net rating right now. Your rotations off the bench aren't great. I think Richardson's playing like crap right now. So I don't know where you go. Maybe a little bit more Nesmith. Romeo played well early in this one. I thought Romeo was going to be the takeaway of the game the way he started, and
he did. He started great.
You look young now. You look young. In a game like this, you go to those guys.
This is the problem. So this is the problem from the get-go with this team. And this is my problem with the Celtics. We go back and forth with these guys. Can they play? Can they not play? Should they play? What's the strategy here? What's really frustrating here is that the Celtics, because they've had so much talent over the years, they haven't had a need to develop or work in players. They've been able to just let them kind of sit and do whatever. But the last 2 years, you're doing that thing where you're playing safe veterans who you know what you're going to get at the expense of developing talent that may end up paying off for you. And that's the problem is you've got to let it ride with these guys or not. But you're not going to get the worst thing you can do for the Nesmiths and the Romeos out there is spot duty, 5 minutes, 6 minutes here and there.
And they've done well with it.
Sometimes if you're good, you get more minutes. If you don't, see you later. Or, hey, you did well in the second quarter, but I don't trust you enough in the second half. So bye. That's terrible. Like other cities and other places, like they spend a lot more time developing their rookies because they know they're not getting free agents, and this and that. And I think we've gotten spoiled with all of the talent that's come through here in the last few years and had just done no job developing these guys. So you just don't know what you're going to get here. You're right. Romeo starts off looking good. You get some Nesmith minutes, blah, blah, blah. And then, nothing, gone. And that's it. So I really don't know what the answer is. As I said, is changing the rotation to put somebody in there that creates a little bit more spacing and shooting, even if they're not ideally suited, makes sense. Whether it's Grant or Romeo or something, get rid of the double big. You got to get Al down to about 20 minutes a game, because you're burning them out here. Al and Rob together are killing you, especially when Jaylen's out and your two guards are Schroeder and Smart. There's no shooting out there. There's no shooting on that team. There's no shooting. So there's nothing you can do there,
Yeah, it's maybe a move you make is that closing lineup down the stretch there. Start to integrate that a bit more here. It's done well offensively. Down the stretch, you were able to score quite a bit, be disruptive, and defend across the perimeter there. And obviously, you're going to get good center play from either one of those guys there. Just start to make yourself a more wing-oriented team. Cut out double big minutes entirely here. I just don't think there's a place where that's going to help you down the line here. Maybe certain matchups, if you get lucky in a playoff series against Miami or something like that, that might be something that works there. Milwaukee, it's just like you got to shake up the rotations through the flow of the game, because in the second quarter, third quarter right now, you're getting blown up. It'd been the first and fourth quarters that were killing you earlier. Now I think you're starting games well and ending games well. There's just a middle period there.
39 points in the second quarter. Again, you get into that bench and then everybody falls asleep there. I mean, that was gross. I don't know how you give up.
I mean, you just had one guy on the other side showing you up.
And the whole and again, you're just racking up turnovers, and then you're just giving up open shots and open jumpers and open looks. I mean, just a really just sad performance on defense. And again, one quarter does them in. Last night it was the third. Tonight it was the second. And that was it, man. I mean,
you don't get surprised with this team anymore when they hit these lows. But if you look at, and Paul George was a pretty late scratch, so you didn't have time to really take it in. But if we came into today from the start saying George isn't going to play, you couldn't fathom losing this game. The Clippers are just a disaster offensively without him, and he does everything for them on that end. You got a couple of different guys that can threaten.
I don't know how you lose this game.
For your bench to be blown up like you talk about there, it's just unreal. Complaining, I think, is a good point too there.
Dude, come
Plays
on.
that really aren't even bad calls. I'm trying to think of one specifically, the Tatum one where he got fouled on the floor. Pretty obviously. Spending too much time worried about that one. And Tatum had a decent game, I thought, outside of the turnovers. The effort was high down the stretch.
The effort was high, but it was
really getting to the basket and out in the break and things like that. It's just the sloppiness these last two games to have 11 turnovers here.
It's no urgency. It's that 48-minute thing. It's such a freaking cliche, but it's so obvious. You just don't care for or respect possessions, enough throughout the game, where they just went in there and Tatum was just winging it. It's into the middle of the paint with no chance of it getting through to the guy he wanted to pass to. Rob's were more klutzy, clumsy. Tatum's were terrible. Rob was awful. I'm not apologizing for him. Tatum's turnovers were terrible. Just drive somewhere, turn around, just throw it up. Really bad stuff. You just have to value the ball, value possessions more than that. I hate the flipping the switch stuff. Actually, when you see him play as hard as he did in the second half, I get more pissed off that he didn't.
And
do
it feels like they've never won one of those games. Like never. You knew when they were scorching back with 3, 4, 2.
They do against really bad teams, but yeah. Right.
I can't remember the last one off the top of my head.
They had one this year where they only played the third quarter. It might have been OKC or something. At OKC, I think. They sucked all game. It was like a 40-point first half. Blew their doors off in the third quarter, and that was it. They've had a couple of those types of games against really low opponents. But you're right. You play a team that pound for pound is about the same as you.
Yeah, going back to last year. Yeah.
Yeah. These are terrible,
Mm-hmm. And you see it again and again. Like, how many times are you just watching this team and your head's spinning? You call it embarrassing. You call it lifeless, effortless. I mean, Ime just blew up. Ime emptied the clip on them last night in terms of criticism. Did it again into today. There's nothing left for him to say.
I'm so bummed out by it, though, because we get to 2 games ago, and I know it's a little bit of fool's gold when they score those, 130 and 145. We know that's not the offense.
I did a 20-minute video. Someone commented, it's not going to last.
Well, we know it's not, but you start to – it's again, this is we always talk about this. This is the problem with a 500 team. You start to get excited a little bit, and you get out over your skis, with these guys and then you feel like a fool. So, like –
the Utah one was real deal. That was excellent competitive.
It is, but that's the thing is like the most frustrating thing with this team is you feel like if they move the ball and play with defensive intensity, the results are usually favorable, or they're in games, or you're able to draw some positives out of it. And when they don't, you're just like, what the F, man? And you see, like there's nothing worse that speaks to lack of effort and lack of focus than turnovers, poor defense, and bitching and complaining to the refs. Those are just the 3 things that are like the complete antithesis of the team that Ime wants them to be. What are the things he said in the press conference? Literally, stack them up. 3 things he said. We're going to pass the ball more and work it around. He keeps saying this stuff. Even he had a third quarter he had a TNT interview last night on the broadcast, and Tatum's playing a good game, and they ask him about Tatum. He's like, yep, he's just got to move the ball and trust his teammates. He's still saying it in the middle of a good game. Like, let's go, man. Do this thing I want you to do. And I'm not blaming Tatum. It's just obvious Ime wants them to do a thing that they just don't do regularly enough. Move the ball, play, stay focused and play intense on defense, and shut the F up. And they can't help themselves.
He abandoned that. He abandoned that.
Can't help themselves. It's unreal. And that's the thing. You see those things, the stuff just keeps rearing its head over and over again.
Yeah, he abandoned that no complaining rule pretty early on. I know when I was doing some stuff on that earlier in the season, Matt Moore nationally was pretty excited to track it. Like, what would a team look like that doesn't complain? And it took about one game for that to just completely dissolve. I was like, don't worry about that trend.
But that's
You're not going to have a team like that.
This is why they kneecapped him coming in. And this is why I put a lot of this stuff on Jaylen and Jason and Marcus, particularly with the captain stuff, which everyone's like, oh, captains don't matter. They don't. But the coach wanted one. And you guys all, when asked about it, said, I don't give an F about that. So he's like, okay, shoulder shrug, guess no captains. Then he says outright, I swear I will yank you if you complain. And then game 1, Tatum's just turning around and bitching at the refs. And then Ime's like, well, I'm not going to take out my best player. And then boom, he's an empty threader. Like I said, I made this analogy with my kids. You can't be an empty threader. And Ime got caught week 1. He's like, okay, I guess you don't have to listen to me. There's no repercussions. There's no anything. When they don't do the things that he wants them to do, he just keeps trotting the same guys out there. How many games have you seen him just, I'm done with this guy, and just yank him? Not too many, and when you have, it's been an ancillary player, like, all right, we're done with Richardson minutes tonight.
We're done with Rob.
We're done with Rob last couple of games, but not a lot of that's more matchup dependent. He hasn't just said this guy's not giving me what I want. You're done, sit.
Meanwhile, a bigger challenge awaits when they have to integrate Brown into
this. He just wants them to care. He just wants them to look like they care all the time. You're in the nicest way possible, trying to convey to them, you guys are not good enough talent-wise to coast in any game. So you have to do these things to win. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and very rarely do they do it for 48 minutes.
Yeah, and there's a lot falling on Ime still, even tonight in the chat here. And I just don't know what more you can do if you're him. Certain adjustments, rotations, but in terms of messaging and getting through to guys and making his just priorities clear here in his development,
ouch.
His development pointers here. You're seeing stuff that he wants done, accomplished in spots. Tatum has had some awesome passing games. As a team, they've had some games like Utah where they really whipped it around. And defensively on the whole this year, they've been excellent up until this trip. That is a point that you look at year to year where they've been completely different here. And they've gotten some bad defenders to play good defense too. So the Ime accomplishments, there's some early on here that I think make you happy with the job he's doing right now. You're always going to look to the coach. There's things that he could do better here, but man, is he way down the list of concerns I have.
That's where I feel too, and that's the problem. Is now it's I don't know.
I want to hear in the chat what they want from him.
Well, we said this is, and again, I'll appeal to the people in the chat here as well, who are down on Ime. I don't think he's got. That's the problem. When you don't have a deep and talented roster, it's very easy to nitpick rotations because you're really not happy with anything, because they're not consistently good enough for things to work on a regular basis. So it's always easy to say, why did he play this guy? Because 2 out of 3 nights, you're going to get crap minutes out of this guy, or 1 out of 2 nights, whatever. You're lucky if you get 1 good, 1 bad performance every time you give minutes to Romeo or to Cantor or to whatever. It's just not a good enough team. So you're always, and somebody tweeted this the other day, there's not a single NBA fan base that doesn't hate their coaches' rotations. It just is what it is. You give up leads, the bench is in. Why is he playing this guy? Everybody does it. It's not unique to Boston. But the thing that bugs me the most is it's the same series of complaints you had last year with Brad, and everybody was saying Brad lost the team. Is Ime so bad he lost the team in 1 week, or are you going to start to question whether the players will play for anybody? Like, who do you want? This guy's a hand-picked coach. I don't know. If they've tuned him out, that's really friggin' bad on them. It's more on them than it is on Ime. And I don't think they've tuned him out. It's just I don't know that they're capable of doing that thing that is expected of them, which is night in, night out on a full basis. Or,
no, it's unnatural. It's going to take time, and you don't have a great roster here. You go back to that at the end. And
at the end of the day, Tatum and Smart are killing themselves in the second half, so you're not going to question their effort. But it wasn't a full 48.
Yeah, Smart's back to who he is. Tatum had a good trip overall here, and Brown hasn't been there, so you can't even start to address that whole thing there. It's a major, major loss on the big picture when you start to think about where they're at. Like we talked about him looking better without him in certain ways, and the offense executing at a higher rate, just with different ball handlers out there. At the end of the day, it's Jaylen Brown. You need that guy out there to be the best version of yourself. So, that's something you do have to take into consideration here. You're playing great teams too through all this. These last two here are a little weaker.
Yeah, this is a tough stretch here.
And it's going to continue. So this is the question you got to ask is where you're going to be at by the end of January, let's say, once you get through the Bucks, the Warriors, all these different teams that are coming up here. Never mind the effort you played with tonight, which I can't even imagine going into Phoenix and doing. I mean, that would just be a scary thought, thinking of what will happen if you do that against the Suns. But going forward, even if you play at your best here, like that Utah game, you're probably going to lose more games than not here against some teams that are just flat out better than you. So you got to start to think of what's the expectation of this team? What do you want out of it? Where are you going? I mean, there's big picture questions in terms of where the roster's at and the decisions they're going to have to make here in pretty short order, by mid-February. You almost, if it's going to sink, you want it to sink here and start to make that decision there about where you're going to go with things. You just don't want to be caught in this 500 mixed bag that leaves you confused and blaming injuries and blaming all this different stuff that's afflicted the team just like last year. You want to really know that you can either make a run, improve the roster, and shoot upward, or break it down and start to figure out where you're going to go from there. I said this last year, and they ended up improving the roster. It didn't work, but I thought it was a good attempt at it, but it just came a little bit too late to me. Those things don't get decided early in the season, but you wish it could because we know where this is going.
Yeah. It's going one step forward, one step back.
It's and again, so predictable.
It is predictable, but again, I hate to make excuses. It's just a team this thin on talent can't play half their games without a superstar and us get any sense of what they are.
Which is an issue in itself. I don't know if we're going to address that again tonight after some Ime comments pregame, but that whole situation's really puzzling and frustrating a month later to still have that be up in the air. And Ime said today he's 85-90%.
It's a failure. It's a failure of the organization to have allowed him to return. There's no other way to look at it. And stop saying things. You're embarrassing yourselves. Stop saying things like it's not a setback. It is absolutely a setback.
Well, not only that, but the things they were saying while it was happening. Oh, I see burst. Now today, Ime saying we'll wait till we see the burst in him. They said that they didn't see all the grabbing and issues or didn't hear anything from him throughout the flow of those games. We saw all these things. We knew it in plain sight, and they sent a different message out there, which is the most concerning thing to me. They played it off like nothing was happening while it was happening, and now it's something that they have to be careful with. I heard Gorman on the broadcast, and I don't want to blame Gorman, but say, oh, they're going to address this one with a lot of caution. It's like they already didn't address it with great caution.
That's the point. That's the point. It was, you've already screwed up bringing him back less than 100%. And now you're dealing with it for who knows how long. If he's 85% now, that means certainly out for Phoenix. And we're lucky if you see him on the homestand. And they keep saying, we don't think it's long-term. Well, he's missed 4 games since you said it wasn't long term. I don't know what you think long term is. This is we're having a semantic
you
debate
could do like
here, but he's probably going to miss 6 games.
You could do like a Letterman top 10 of just like the head shaking comments about that injury over 5 games, where everybody just kind of knew what they saw in front of them, and they just, I don't know what they did. Like they just kept rolling him out there and forcing the issue in spite of how it looked. He just never looked like himself. There was clearly things bugging him.
The first game he played, they should have sat him down again and said, nope, like, not good enough. Like, nope, not right.
And he came out after that game and said, I wasn't really comfortable with how I felt, and said he had tightness that just never went away, and he worked through it, and then he tried it out for the Nets game. I remember watching him in warmups at the Garden, just really being cautious with how he was moving, holding himself back. I didn't think he was going to play just based off how he looked that night coming off the Houston game. So that whole situation I wrote about for CLNS Media. I think everything I wrote there is still pretty valid just in terms of how that progressed and where it went wrong. And you just hope that there's not an even bigger setback or re-injury that they're not letting on about here, and it's going to be like another full progression of a hamstring injury here. Who knows? Like after what they did there, how do you believe what's coming out about the path ahead here? I don't know whether to think he could be back Monday after you get 3 days off over the next 4 here, or whether it's going to be another month. I mean, it could be anything with a hamstring, right?
Again, it all depends on grades.
He may said he's at 90%.
And each player is different. There's no such thing as 90%. You either feel good or you don't. If you go in any less than 100, the risk of re-injury is very high. So it's not only feel 100, it's feel 100 and then have enough runway past the injury of feeling 100 where it's not at risk of being re-aggravated. You never come back at less than 100% on these injuries.
You know what's the other weird thing too?
We keep saying it over and over again. You never return even a day early on a hamstring injury or any sort of soft tissue injury because the risk of re-injury is so
can we throw
high.
It back to the most just jaw-dropping line out of all of them though? Return from injury management. What was that?
The second I saw that, I mean, you know me, I'm friggin' an asshole, but I mean, I tweeted immediately. I was like, what the hell does this mean? Return from injury management. He's out. He's out with a hamstring injury. You're not managing it. He's out with a hamstring injury.
Yeah. I cannot believe. And you just, you put it in tandem with different injury mishaps that they've had over the years here. Like this one is really right up there with any of them. It's unbelievable what they did with that injury. I just can't even fathom it. And Jaylen's still pushing to play. Clearly there's something on his part that he's got to hold back a little bit because maybe they placated that desire they had to get into that Lakers game, playing in Atlanta, different things along the way here where he was really trying to jump back in. And at some point did they just say, all right, let's just do it. He really wants to do it.
Yeah.
You got it. Like you said a couple shows ago, you got to have a bigger picture and a bigger perspective in mind of what's going on there. But
well, you do it. And so just all of the numbers too, just the re-injury rate is higher than the injury rate, obviously, because you've already had it. But also the re-injury of a hamstring usually results in a longer absence than the first time.
That's what I'm wondering right now.
No,
yeah.
It always does. I mean, that's what the science says generally. Each person is different, but typically the risk the risk of re-injury is like 35%, even if you come back thinking you're close to healthy. But then beyond that, usually the second stint is longer. So that's why you really never push it. It's usually like
last year.
It's usually like 4 weeks and then take another 1 or 2. You never mess with it.
You know what I hope it isn't is, we're 500. We're kind of on the edge of this playoff race. And, maybe there's not as much leeway for him to take a massive amount of time here. I remember going back to last year, we talked every single night. It felt like, of why can't you rest Tatum? Why can't you rest Brown? And these guys need a night off with the load that they're shouldering here. And I remember Brad's answer back then was, we don't have the luxury of resting guys. Well, it played out in a bad way in the end anyway, and they didn't win any more games for it. So they're still doing this thing of, oh, he's questionable, he's day-to-day for the future. I think we'd all be perfectly fine with he's not coming back, and we'll figure it out when he's 100%, and that's it. There's no questionable, there's no day-to-day, there's no, oh, he might come back today if he feels good. There's going to come a point where he's 100%, and we'll get there when we get there. I mean, that's how any injury should be handled, right?
Yeah, I guess. Let me once again just want to tell everybody, quick pause. Don't go anywhere. We got Josue coming in from LA, and hopefully Sherrod as well. But again, LinkedIn Talent Solutions, I should say. Right now, job market is what it is. It's hard to find people to hire for your small businesses. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to find people you want to talk to faster and for free. So you can create job posts on LinkedIn in minutes, reach up to 770 million people, focus on candidates with the right skills for you. All of the simple tools on LinkedIn Jobs, which you can filter and prioritize exactly who you want to interview and hire. So call to action here. Let me tell you what to do if you are interested. LinkedIn Jobs gives you the candidates you want to talk to faster. So go to linkedin.com/garden, post your job for free. Once again, linkedin.com/garden, post your job for free. Limited time only. So again, new sponsor, LinkedIn. Go take advantage of this offer if you are looking to hire here, LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Again, we're waiting on Josue and possibly Sherrod coming in from LA, and we've got an angry chatters here. So, we want to keep hearing from you guys. It seems like it's pretty equal opportunity right now, Bobby. If I'm looking at the chat,
that's what it felt like in this game. Yeah.
We got a lot of Ime. We got some Smart, even though I thought Smart was all right tonight. I thought he played a good game, particularly late. LinkedIn Jobs for some replacement players. Exactly. For a new coach, that's going to be the new jokes here. I know.
Like, we're not even close to that.
I trust me. Calm is not out of the picture, guys. We're still talking about Calm. We got to space this out. Yeah, LinkedIn Jobs for the medical staff, maybe. Talent Solutions.
Smart doesn't get off free out of this one for me. Brutal turnover, throwing it right at Hartenstein down the stretch. The shooting, the overall offensive approach, I thought just kind of took a dive. And again, who's BJ Boston going at in the second quarter there? Smart. So you got to be able to stand up if you have the pride defensively like he does, and he's played with throughout this year. I think if the season ends today, he's all defense. But
Smart was a mixed bag. He did some things that pissed you off.
He's been better over the last month. He's built a higher standard for himself than this.
I think he's been better, but he made a lot of plays late,
and the assist too with him. I don't know how many he had exactly in this one. I'm pulling it up, but he had a stretch there of 13 straight games. He ends up with 6 in this one too. I think he had 6 yesterday as well. But ball control is his job, right, on the offensive end, and that's where he's got to be clean. And it wasn't last night. It wasn't tonight. That's where he ends up. I think culpable for this one, but one of the better players here for sure. I thought Dennis Schroeder was excellent. Leading the fast break, getting out on the run, turning up the pace in this one, which is what he didn't do yesterday. 8 assists in the end, too. Excellent Schroeder game. See, I'm capable of giving Schroeder credit, John. You look at the starting lineup, though. I mean, Horford plus 11, Smart, net neutral, Schroeder 9. Tatum ends up the -4 in the crunch time there. But that -17 for Rob was really what killed you in this.
This was, I don't know what happened. It's the strangest game for Rob.
He was so bad.
The turnovers were so bad, but also just he got the ball in a position to one time with the travel where he just got caught with his feet there in transition. But a couple times he had catches near the rim, and he just didn't look to score. He looked to pass. One resulted in a turnover.
That zone threw him off a bit. And
that was a huge issue. Overpassing through the zone. I think he's so used to getting rid of it quickly that he's not recognizing offensive opportunities. And we talked about this a little last game, is he's just got to recognize, I'm here. I'll take this shot.
I think it's so tricky too as a roll man to run in all that traffic on the roll. Normally you're used to an open lane in that kind of situation. I mean, I never even really figured out personally like what the best way to address that as a role man is too. That's probably on Ime to go Horford for greater brunt of this game against a defense like that. Bring the shooting out there, bring the playmaking at the top of the zone, do some handoff stuff, and screen away at the top of the zone there and just shoot over it. You're not running the pick and roll plays and the backline cuts there and all that traffic and all that just massive bodies that were around the rim there. And that's definitely what bothered Rob. You go back and look at those plays. He just ran into a brick wall in those spots, tried to get it off quickly, and he was throwing it right to the other team, going the other way there. And that's killers that so many of those turnovers were live ball opportunities for the Clippers to just get out there and sprint to the other side and finish. That was what killed you in that second quarter there. I mean, this is just unfathomable on every level. Guy like Horford, you don't expect to make the mistakes he did here. Rob, like fouling last game, doing what he did here where he makes himself unplayable. Like, we are so far past that with Rob. We haven't even talked about that being like a concern that, Rob might end up in a spot that you can't play him just because the bad plays.
No, it shouldn't be.
Pile up. I mean, that's playoffs 2020.
I know. That's what I mean. I how are we back here with this? It's funny because like it took us till, game whatever it was last night. Last night was game 25 of the season to see that full athleticism once again from Rob. But now we're back to, 2019, 2020 erratic, kind of sloppy, all over the place play.
7 fouls over the last year.
With the bad fouls, and that was something he wasn't doing before. So it's like as soon as he got his spring back, he just started kind of friggin' jumping all over the place and, losing control of his body. Like, I don't know what happened. It's so strange because even when he wasn't playing with that explosive athleticism early in the year, he was so much more controlled. We talked about how the game had slowed for him, and he's just been a sloppy mess these last couple nights. It's really upsetting. Josue is trying to get ready. Once he's looking sexy, we're going to pull him in here. Yes, sexy, big sexy. There he is. What's up, buddy? No, we don't have you. We got no sound out of you. Yeah.
Keep working at it.
Keep playing around. Mess with the buttons.
With delaying, I don't know. I guess you can pull a few positives out of this one on the young guys if you want to, or we can jump right to the interview of the night. I don't know if you want to spend much longer on this game here, but
what, Danny?
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a little bit. I want to give Josue a chance. Josue's at the game. I want to give him his chance to talk a little bit about it.
Let's hit on the young guys real quick while waiting for him to come in. Is there a level of involvement that you want to have from them consistently? Are you seeing enough from those guys right now? Romeo in particular, to me, is a guy who I just think could do more right now.
Like I said,
he can do more.
In the place of Jaylen, I would start Romeo. Or against small, I would.
We've had three different starters in that.
No, I would put. I want to see a world where ultimately I want to see a world where Schroeder and Horford are both coming off the bench. That's what I want to see. So whatever it takes to get there, whether it be a lineup where you can work Nesmith in there, you can work Grant in there, you can work Romeo in there. I don't think they're great players. I just think you don't have to start your best five. You just need a lineup that makes more sense, that creates more space, that does more things for you. So that's what I would like to see. I don't know what the right combo is, but I want to see you commit to it for a little bit. Decide, this is a guy, I'm playing him 25 minutes a game, and let's go. It's the only way you're going to get stuff out of these guys. And so I like that maybe, there. And if you want to hedge a little bit on the double big thing, if you did take Al and you want a little bit more beef, put in Grant as your starter and at least have him in the corner, even though he's turning into a bit of a pumpkin with the threes. They haven't been falling with the same frequency lately. But maybe that's something that it gives you there. Let's bring in Josue and give him a chance to talk about the game.
What's going on, guys? Craziness. First of all, I just want everyone to know that right now on the floor, as part of the I don't know, I think it's a season ticket holder thing, but they start with an interview with Eric Bledsoe, and it's because it's his birthday tomorrow. And to start things off, right as I'm about to go on, the MC tells the entire crowd to sing happy birthday to Eric Bledsoe. So I apologize. I knew it was going to be distracting. I knew the interview was going to be distracting. I didn't know that they do post-game interviews like that where, like, guys sit in the stands and it's like a one-on-one sit-down for 20 minutes. But that's what's going on right now. So it's a big night for the Clippers.
It's all good.
It's a big night for the Clippers.
We've been going the chat's lit right now. People are pissed off. So we'll give you a chance to no agenda.
To
What
have
was
at
on
it.
you watched the game. You have at it. What were your observations?
So I think, again, it reminds me of, and I say again because we said it last week, right? That the first quarter, second quarter, like the Celtics just get themselves into these holes and they can't get out of them. And I thought that in the first half it was the same case, but in the second quarter alone, when the Clippers scored 39 points,
20.
You got Boston coming off the bench and just giving Celtics the business, and then at the same time, you see the Celtics start to come around, but it was just the uphill battle was just too steep. I mean, we've seen it so many times, and I thought it was just disappointing because you look at the kind of production you got from the bench, right? We always talk about trying to find some consistency. Man, Josh Richardson to me was like a whole vibe tonight. Whether it was just on getting the ball on the floor and scoring, or just keeping up with his defenders, I just thought that sort of energy was contagious. And then you look at Dennis Schroeder,
him too, yeah.
Like Dennis Schroeder, he was phenomenal. I'm trying to figure out, alone from the second quarter and just overall transition defense, like what else went wrong for this team. And I think those are the two that top the list. And you look at guys going and scoring double figures for the Clippers. I just thought it was just too much for the Celtics to handle, and it's disappointing because they kept up, but that second quarter hole that they fell into, it was too steep to crawl out.
Yeah, Clippers never really got good half-court offense going. You made it easy for them with the turnovers.
It was all transition. Yeah, the turnovers, you're giving them. Man, they capitalized on those. What was it?
Yeah, you made it hard. You made it harder on yourself too by botching fast breaks.
I think it was 33 points on 23 turnovers. I think were the final numbers, but yeah,
33 points.
That number
it feels like 40. It was 33.
I thought it was higher too.
I'll explain why I'm sweating, by the way, guys.
They were 23 turnovers. Those numbers were about what they were midway through the third, and then they cleaned it up. Like they got to that 20-something mark. I think it was 22 halfway through the third, and there was one more the rest of the way. So they did clean it up a little bit late, but it was ugly.
So guess who's at the top of the blame pie list for the chat, Josue, right now? Guess.
If I had to guess, I'm gonna say Al. Maybe I saw some Al hate.
Ime. Again.
Really?
People are mad at Ime.
Ime by far. They are furious at Ime for a second.
Why? What did he do wrong?
That's what I've been wondering.
What could he have done better to change the outcome of this one?
I want a full explanation, a nice little essay from one of our chatters here. Because again, it's just
in your essays.
It's just
I like that.
Ime, rest the coach next game.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. Is it the rotations? Is it the decision making, play calls down the stretch? There's a number of different things I think you can nitpick there, but we're so early here, and I think he's done a lot of good stuff early this year.
Yeah, especially you look at the turnaround. I mean, look, it doesn't say that on the record, right? You look at the record, it's still a 500 team, but just their overall approach and the style of play, it's changed, and it's changed for the better. And you have no one else to think but Ime. He's got these guys dialed in on defense. It just doesn't always translate on the other end on the night-to-night basis, and the schedule is not going to get any easier.
Though defense the last couple of nights has been a little off, but yeah.
Defense fell apart on this trip for sure.
The Los Angeles, it wasn't good in Los Angeles, but the way they started the road trip, you got that huge win in Portland, like where it all came together, and we haven't seen that team since Portland. That seemed like they left that back in Portland.
I do feel a general frustration in the fan base, and I've had friends say this to me too, just furious. And Bill Simmons was tweeting it. There's a real sentiment in the fan base that they're just giving these young guys a bad break right now. Neesmith in particular, and he had a nice fast break dunk in this one, but the lack of involvement for those guys I think is starting to drive people crazy, becoming a real second guess in a game like this where effort and execution is so bad for some of the other guys. And frankly, Romeo played so good early. You talked about that bench rotation, Josue, in the first quarter there, that gave the Celtics a nice lead there, outplayed LA's bench pretty decisively, and Romeo grabbing the ball back from Hartenstein and finishing in the lane, bursting out of that left corner, and you just never saw him for the rest of the night, which was frustrating. So there's bits and pieces from Ime, I think, that I can see being angry with out of this one, but the big picture overall, I think he's implemented a lot of stuff really fast that's been good for this group. Just hasn't been consistent, and he can't jam consistency down their throat here. Effort, attention to detail. Besides sitting guys down, and that's just something he's shown he's not willing to do.
So on my way to the media room, I'm making my way over, trying to hurry up a bit. And I look right next to me, and it's almost like we just met at this point, right? It's Marcus Smart. I'm like, I look at Marcus. What's up, Marcus? What's going on? Hey, what's going on, man? And I'm walking the same direction. He's walking the same direction. And I said, Marcus, what happened tonight? What went wrong? And he goes, everything. Everything went wrong. Guys were all over the place. I said, well, what do you mean by that? He's like, look, we just have to get it together. And he talked about how, what are we not going to make the playoffs? Obviously, he's being sarcastic, but he's like, look, at the end of the day, we're going to get it together. And, guys aren't even healthy. There's a lot of stuff going on. And other than that, and then next thing I know, I'm start feeling like this like breeze coming in. And then I'm walking, and I realize I passed the media room, and I'm about to approach like where the players go outside and load the bus. And I said, okay, I've gone too far. I kept it short, but I wonder if Marcus was expecting me to relay this message on the Garter report or the Celtics post-game show. So I think he was about to like open up, and he was like, wait a minute, I don't know. But you know what, Marcus, I think everything, the water's under the bridge from last season. I think he's moved on. I think that's the moral of the story I got. So otherwise, good. I don't think he talks to me at all. So, no, but yeah, funny. I mean, look, to Marcus's point, you can see the frustration. You can understand the frustration. He has some incredible plays down the stretch in this one. Just continue to keep the Celtics in it, and you have to wait to see it through. I just think at the end of the day, Marcus isn't going to be as reactionary. He's gonna be more patient. He's not gonna be as reactionary because he was the one that called these guys out, and that was sort of the somewhat turning point. If you had to pick one this season, that was it. So I'm not worried about Marcus, and I think that I think he's got the right attitude right now. I think he's been very positive.
It's been neck and neck between him and Horford. I think with the way Horford's tailed off a little bit in recent weeks here, I think Smart's been the best Celtic this year by a pretty sizable margin.
Yeah, but Bobby, you knew. Bobby, also, you knew Al was. I mean, it's not a knock on Al, but like he was at a level where he wasn't going to sustain. That was going to be all season long, right? I mean, that's a good point. Like I get it, but at the same time, like I just feel like Al is sort of like he's okay, right? He's started out so well that he's starting to even out a bit, and that's fine. I don't know if he's still one of the most. This trip wasn't great, but he's been one of the most reliable guys on this team.
No, you rely on him probably too much. Like they're just like, oh my God, this guy's so good. He's such a steady hand that we got to play him for the whole fourth quarter. And so that's probably having some of the diminishing impact on him. You'd like, and he may even said this a couple of weeks ago, we'd like on this trip to be able to rely on him a little bit less. That was what he said coming into this trip. And it's gone the other way. Last two games, you've had to play him for massive stretches in the second halves here. So you don't have the depth behind him, the reliability behind him right now to sort of put him in a role that he should be in at this point in his career. And they even had to rest him in that Portland game. I mean, they came into this year not thinking that they'd have to rest him on back-to-backs. Yeah. So,
like, look, Al's turned into a pumpkin. He should be playing less. Bobby, Marcus Smart has not been the best Celtic this year. He was really bad for the first 10, 12, 13
games.
You're
really fired up about that answer. I heard that.
There's no way. He's been much better lately, much better. But he was the worst version of Marcus Smart we've seen maybe ever for the first.
What about the defense?
For the first half of the season, he was really rough. But he's been much better. Much better, of late. And again, we talked about post call out, they were playing better, after he said the things that he said, but you have to also remember the day that he said what he said, he'd had one of his worst games also. So, I mean, he had been playing pretty poorly up until then. I don't know who you would give the mantle to for best player. It was Al for a while, but he's definitely turned into a bit of a pumpkin, as time has gone on. So, I'm not really sure who I'm giving that to. I wasn't going to let, I didn't want to, I couldn't let that one go completely.
I'm giving it to Al. I think Smart's right there with anybody just because of the defensive tone and the passing tone. The two things they've needed the most, he's given them.
Yeah, I mean, but he was shooting so friggin' bad. Let's quickly talk. A couple other pieces of news we want to get to, including a interesting trade proposal. Trade proposal put out into the ether that I want to talk about. Also, some interesting comments from Danny Ainge. But first off, Calm, you know the deal by now. America's #1 app for sleep and meditation, teamed up with none other than LeBron James, who Josue had an up and. Did you talk Calm with LeBron?
No, I did not. I should have talked to Marcus about it, actually.
You should. We needed a sponsor. You should have gotten that's where you go get a sponsor read from him.
Rather a disappointing loss. Yeah, he would.
For the Garden Report, you go right to LeBron and say, "Can you do this little promo for me?"
To LeBron. I thought you meant Marcus.
No, to LeBron. To LeBron. But anyway, you train your brain to help you sleep better, reduce stress, perform at your best.
We need that this week.
Yeah, we all need it. I'm cooked. I need it. But anyway, calm.com/garden, limited time, 40% off a Calm premium subscription. You can get all sorts of things, sound of rain, whatever it is that you like there, waterfalls, stories, music, all sorts of things help you get to sleep. So again, just go check it out, calm.com/garden, 40% off for a premium subscription, limited time only. So go get some.
I'm not, I swear to you, this isn't a script. This isn't part of the read, but like, I swear the other night, Nick was like, I think he has it as an alarm, but he was blasting like the sounds of the forest. I was like, Nick, is that calm? He was like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
You're supposed to put that in your headphone. You don't blast it and then go to sleep like.
Yeah, that's not how it works. It's not.
He goes, no. It was my alarm. I go, how is that going to wake you up? Like, that's your alarm. Anyway, that just reminded me of that. I never heard it so loud. I'm like, I don't think that's the purpose of it.
Turn off that rock and roll music. So, couple things that were out that were interesting today that I wanted to talk about. ESPN trade proposal was a whole bunch of players and a whole bunch of picks for Damian Lillard. Basically ended up being 4 first-round picks for Damian Lillard. And basically it was a non-Jaylen trade for Damian Lillard that involved 4 first-round picks, which is really what it's all about. What would you guys think of that?
You can't say no, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have a guy on a long-term deal, a superstar who wants to stay longer, who wants to sign on for more years beyond this, it's like the Kyrie thing. You look back at Kyrie and you're like, man, that stunk. Would you have done it again? Yeah, you probably do it again. Like it's just there's so few opportunities to add stars in this league. And when you do it for picks, I'd throw more picks if that's what it took. I think
I'm sure you would, Bobby.
This is actually low there for me in that sense.
Yeah.
So none of these players.
It does. It sounds, this is funny. It sounds just like a Bobby trade.
Yeah, right.
That's why I loved it. I'm like, look, I'm not the only one who's saying you can do stuff without trading Brown here. I put my own trade out there for Sabonis on CLNS today as well. Got in deep into those trade talks. But I do think it's interesting to compare these two situations. I didn't do it heavily in the piece. But you think about a guard entering his 30s who's going to make over $50 million a year with him. Do you want to go in that direction, or do you want maybe a guy who's not as good as the Jays but can complement them decently, make $20 million and have the chance to have a more rounded out roster around them? You think of what you're going to lose in 2 point guards in this deal. One of your most reliable big man here. It's nice that you can keep Smart and Rob out of this deal, but it essentially leaves you, I think, with what was coming back: Cody Zeller, Tony Snell, stuff like that from Portland, and then you have Grant off the bench.
It's the age. It's the age. To me, the downside here is it's a lot of picks to give away for a guy who's going to get worse the second you get him for the rest of the time you have him.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. I think I prefer the Sabonis.
You missed the whole ride. Yes,
it's a dramatic way to put it, but it's accurate.
It's accurate. You've missed the ride. It's on its way down,
which is bad for Portland, right?
Yeah, doesn't mean he's still not excellent. He's capable of winning games and friggin' carrying teams on his back still, probably, even though the regression this year has been pretty steep. But it's early in the year and he's had some injuries as well.
But John, you know how I feel about this expiration date I was talking about last night, right? Like when it comes to Tatum and Brown, and what I mean by that is like the expiration date for when they start to think, okay, we have to go another direction because it's not working. And I think if you're in that space, then you make a trade like this because then you're just going all in, whether it's a 3-year window or whether that third year,
if you lose this year,
things fall apart. I think you do it because you're not relying on that guy to be your number one guy for the next 5+ years. You still have Tatum, you still have Brown. So I think it's worth the risk, honestly. I mean, if you were asking him to take over and he was going to be the top guy and rely on him for the next 3 years, that's different. Whether he's option 2 or 3, look, in the Eastern Conference, that's a force to reckon with. That would be a really, really good team in Boston. I think that team is that's a title contending team for sure.
And let's get real with the picks at this point. You pick a guy this summer, maybe helps you in a year or so. All of a sudden, it's 2023. That guy's starting to come into his own. I mean, Brown's up after 2024. Tatum's got the player option in 2025. So forget next year's pick. A 2023 pick. You're a year from Brown's free agency at that point. A 2025 pick. All of a sudden, Tatum's out the door. Like, I think there's nothing at all unless you really strike gold. And I know you like the possibility of it, John. It's so rare where they're going to be picking where it helps you.
You get a superstar.
Not even a superstar, but like a third guy, like a Sabonis. What are the odds you're going to get a Sabonis in there? It's so low to me. And
or how long is that person?
Again, I said this in the piece. The alarms aren't ringing on the Jays yet. But a year from now,
it's not that.
It could be.
That's what I mean, Bobby. Exactly.
Here's the thing.
That's what I was saying last night. That's why I'm calling it too. This season and next season.
But
yeah, go ahead.
No, you finish what you're saying. Sorry.
Well, no, that's pretty much it. But I'm just saying, like, whether it's the 500 record or something close to it, a second round knockout, or one of those guys saying, "Look, I'm not happy to be here anymore." One of the three is going to happen.
So here's the thing. We can't look at I think too many people are living in a world looking at ideal scenarios, and you can't, because you have to recognize the Celtics are in a very compromised position with all of the factors you talked about. They don't have a lot of assets right now. They don't have young and up and coming players that they can kind of next gen stars here. So they have to give up a ton of picks to be able to make any deals work. And the thing Josue keeps talking about, those guys, if you don't appease them in some way in the next year or two, they're going to walk. So how many teams do this? Like Milwaukee did it with Giannis. They're like, what do you need? What do you need? How many first?
And boy, did it. Yeah, but Bobby, that was.
But this is exactly.
I'm not calling an asterisk, but
this is Milwaukee. Yeah. This is the Jrue holiday.
Celtics fans are taking.
What do you need? We'll give whatever to keep you here, because you have to start looking at the trade. Every trade you make, not just the guys you're giving up for the guys you're getting back. It's the guys you're giving up for the guys you're getting back, and Tatum and Brown. And when you put them in the trade, the risk of losing them by not doing something, it's an automatic no-brainer. If this trade keeps these guys, and if not doing the trade costs you these guys, it's almost like you're trading for them. So you have to put that into the equation.
No, that's such a great point. And think of all of the picks.
Yeah.
If you keep those guys and you're good and you get better, you don't care that you gave up those picks.
You don't care. If you get your guys, the same thing in the NFL. It doesn't matter if you give up 5 first-round picks if you get your franchise quarterback. So if you get the guy who's going to help keep these guys here and make your team better.
I mean, they're more important in the NFL.
I'm just saying the deal doesn't matter. I see what you're saying. If it makes you better and it keeps the Jays here, that's it. That's good enough. I just don't know that Lillard is the guy. Because, again, I don't know.
You might not be able to be picky about it. I mean, if it's
but you can't be picky. That's exactly right.
And so, like, I prefer, if I'm picking between these two, the Sabonis one, just because it's probably a little cheaper. You probably keep some things on the table, but at the end of the day, like, the top end talent is what pushes you into contention here. And Lillard is certainly a guy that is up Portland's ceiling year in and year out there to Western Conference Finals at its height with some teams that weren't all that spectacular by any means. Right. Now, did I love how he looked next to Tatum with Team USA? Not really. Is he the best facilitator in the world? Not at all. I mean, he's a guy who's going to be trying to do it with his scoring, much like the Jays are right now. So I do think you end up with a complicated picture where you still need guys to accentuate the 3 stars. But 3 stars is better than 2. You have a great option at the point of attack there. And they've had success playing like that before, not to mention the fact that you could keep Smart next to him in this scenario. I think that's a great looking backcourt there, offense, defense. So, I mean, you just look at this.
I think
you say no to this. Like, I don't know what you think. If
someone puts Lillard on if anybody gives you the option, I don't love it, because I am a little worried of age, and I'm a little worried of mortgaging so many picks that you have no path to improvement beyond, what your stars, and you're still hedging a lot because you still got to convince Tatum and Brown to stay. So it's got to work and it's got to be good, but unless you go full rebuild, you have to say anybody puts a star on the table and says and you don't give Jaylen Brown up in the deal, you have to make the trade.
Let's be clear.
I think you have to.
What they're doing right now is not keeping the Jays around.
Right.
And
selling. If a star is on the table for not Jaylen Brown, you have to make the trade, even if it's not exactly the guy you want.
This is the plan, right? They have piled up tradable salaries. They've done everything. I think they've compromised opportunities to improve and keep a guy like Fournier who could help them now toward being able to make these kind of deals, knowing that you don't have the best assets in the world in terms of players. So remember, we go back to that Kemba trade, and they did it early because you left the first on the table there for next year, so you're not caught in that back-to-back first-round pick years. I think you got to really make an aggressive jump sooner rather than later.
You have to. Yeah.
And just judging off how Brad's played it, fortunately, I do think that's how he's thinking and how he's approaching this. I mean, they are just going to be super aggressive, I think, when the opportunity comes.
That doesn't mean you couldn't trade Jaylen for a different player or something else if you needed to down the road that might improve the composition of the team better. I'm not saying you would do that.
It's consolidating.
But you can do lots of different things there. But and again, people are asking who's proposing this on the timeline. This is just simply one of these ESPN articles that was saying, it was Pelton, I believe, right, who's just said, here's 5 proposals that could work for Dame. And the reason this one was enticing, and we're even talking about it is because it was a non-Jaylen trade proposal, which is obviously very intriguing. And I think that's what every Celtics fan wants. They want a superstar without giving up Brown.
I think we all agree that Portland probably says no to this, right? Like, you don't even have a single player.
It's 4 picks. I think it was 4 picks.
There was some protections on the later ones.
But the later ones went from top 10 to top 4 to unprotected in the last one. But there was three unprotected picks up until that, and then the one way down the road, which is like, who knows how bad will be then, had some protections on it. But my guess is, that was a lot of picks, and they were a couple years down the road too.
I see a lot of people asking about Brogdon too. You can't trade for him this year. I still like the Sabonis ones. I don't really, we talked about it briefly yesterday, but that's a trade I just love in terms of fitting next to these guys, making the game easier for them. And like we said, the salaries here is a huge, huge difference between 25 and 20 million a year and 50 million in your 30s, John. And I know that's a hanging up point that we both have over this.
It doesn't matter. In a few years, 50 million is going to be nothing.
That's true.
About that.
It really is.
I think that's like John Wall, Russell Westbrook deal.
It is now, but 3 years from now, 50 million is everyone's getting 50. It just is what it is. That's just where the numbers are going.
Yeah. Top 10, top 15 players.
Yeah, they're all getting 50, 55, 60, 65. It's not going to be, it's just.
But think about that. I mean, 58 or whatever it's going to be at its max there. Plus the 30-something for Tatum, 30-something for Brown. You have like 100 million there wrapped up in 3 players.
Yeah.
So it doesn't leave a lot of flexibility to be able to build a roster out around those guys. Not to mention this scenario where you're relying on Rob at center. And again, the trade I made today, I'm sending out Rob for Sabonis. I am. Like, I want something reliable. I want something reliable in there, sustainable.
Of course,
no injury worries, week in and week out.
It's not even close. I mean, if it's Rob and a couple of firsts, you do that in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And I love Rob, but you do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but I just don't think his value isn't quite there yet. You just have to wait and see.
It probably isn't.
He can stay healthy. Yeah, if he can stay healthy, it would be. But
yeah, it isn't.
Yeah, it's tough. Back to the Dame Lillard conversation. Look, I still think you do it. I don't know. It's one of those situations where you're gonna look back and say, or rather, you play things out and you look at the alternative and you're like, wait. Maybe that Dame.
There is no alternative.
The alternative would be whether split the Jays or try to go another route. But I just don't see it I don't see them maximizing that opportunity. And look, Jaylen and Jason, if we're talking hypotheticals in a year or so, like they're going to be at a point where I think that they wouldn't mind having someone like Dame Lillard. Is that something that you two are concerned about? You think that they would reject that idea, teaming up with Dame and getting that extra piece that could push them to a title? I don't think that
they would be ecstatic. Kind of I think these are 2 guys that are begging for help right now, begging for someone to make the game.
And listen, these are also 2 guys that played with Kyrie Irving, that played with Kemba Walker. So they're comfortable with the score first point guard. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they pull for it. But again, this is all hypothetical.
And I love what John said.
If you're Portland, like the greatest, one of the best super player you ever had, and you just dump it for some picks, I don't know if that's going to go over well.
And I love what John said about trading for Brown and Tatum, essentially, with all the picks there.
Yeah.
Like, just using those as leverage so you can keep Brown. How many deals have we run into over the years where there was no way to get the deal done without Brown or Tatum? I still think we're kind of looking at a scenario where teams want.
Yeah.
But you run into a rebuilding team, and you tell that rebuilding team, we're going to empty the picks on your head here. You have them. If things go wrong here, all of a sudden you got us in a Brooklyn situation. Maybe that makes them look the other way.
But that's why a team, when people say, why would this team do it? You do it exactly for the same reason the Celtics in the Brooklyn situation. It was a franchise-altering thing. It gets you Tatum. It gets you stars. It gets you – and that's why you do it. You're hoping that when those picks cut, when they come home to roost.
Which is great for them, but I don't think that's a worry for the Celtics. If it happens, it happens. Great.
All of these trades are – that's what they look like. You're not trading the picks now. You're trading future firsts for when that team's going to be bad, and you do it. But again, you're right. Like you look at all of these deals again. Milwaukee does it to appease Giannis. Whatever it was that the Clippers gave up in order to get George, which assured that Kawhi would stay, would sign there. It's the same thing. You're not just trading for Paul George. You're trading for Kawhi and Paul George. So it doesn't matter how big that price tag is. If you don't do that trade, you get neither player. You do that trade, you get them both. So again, anything, this is one of those where you bring those guys into the office and say, guys, this is good enough for you to stay, right? If I do this, we're good. Okay, good. I got your word. Excellent. We're going to pull the trigger, right?
Again,
you know what else helps too? Like the Jan situation was unique because obviously he had to stay and he had to re-up.
Yep.
He put the comment out there. Look, some people, they see a brick wall, they go the other direction. I go through it. All that was great, but at the same time, Giannis is a top 5 player. Like we have to remember that. Like when we're gonna put if we're gonna put the measuring stick next to what happened in Milwaukee, the first building block is having a top 5 guy.
But Giannis was 26.
Don't have a top 5 guys. Yeah, but he was already a top 5 guy though. Like the Celtics don't have a top 5 guy.
Yeah, at 26.
You bring in someone.
You're projecting that the Jays are gonna get there.
I'm not.
We're talking about now or in a year. No, like you're not gonna trade for Damian Lillard in 2 years. I'm talking about right now.
No, you're going to do it right now, and you're going to keep those guys together for 4 or 5 years here, maybe
right,
even longer.
But Bobby, my point is if one of those guys were a top 5 guys, maybe you don't sell the farm as quickly because you're thinking, well, he's a top 5 guy. He can, one more notch, but they're not there yet. That's the thing. So if you can bring in someone like Dame and get those guys all together and they're both in a space where they're like, man, we just need that one guy to get us to the finals and let's see what happens. I think Dame Lillard falls into that category that would excite both of those guys.
Yeah, there's a window there of some
playoff performances. Like he's built up his resume for himself. He's stacked this thing up that it's hard to say no.
You love this guy when he's at his best. I mean, he's an MVP.
It's unbelievable.
He's a real deal MVP.
He's a top
player.
75 all timer.
Right.
I mean, there were.
He is. That's right.
He is. He snuck in ahead of Kyrie.
That bubble year. When he was doing what he was doing to get them into the play-in tournament there, he was the best player in the world. I mean, he was better than anybody at that point in time when he was just scoring at will, pushing them into that play-in tournament. That was unbelievable. Some of the best basketball I've watched over the last
year before
years.
too, the playoffs, the walk-off win, friggin' hits that 40-footer.
The clutch factor with him. I mean, it's
so
unreal.
Good. That friggin' killer stare. Oh my
and
God.
Man, is he loyal.
Paul George still has nightmares. He still.
I know, assassin right in his eye.
Savage.
And man, is he loyal. The stuff he's gone through there, ups and downs, bad management, coaching change.
All that. It's relevant. It's all relevant. And look,
he still wants all 3 of them right now.
All 3 of them can relate. It's like, man, like, I mean, the grand scheme of things, maybe Damian wasn't as close, but Celtics, they got 2 guys that can say, man, 2 wins away, Eastern Conference Final, it just didn't fall for us.
And the contract thing,
Tatum was technically 1 quarter away, right? Celtics were leading the Cavs in Game 7, so they had that experience.
It's not like a rental. It's not a Kyrie situation even. He is signed through 2024, right through the Brown window. So he's here for that run there. I mean, this is the move you make that sets you up to.
There wouldn't be like a little like phase where they have to fade. No, this is just go.
And remember the Harden conversation
Here
we
you
had?
go. You're together for the next 3 years. Play.
Yeah,
2.5 years.
And remember remember the Harden conversation we had? Like, it's like, all right, you don't make that move. Oh, all of a sudden he's in Brooklyn standing in your way there.
I don't care. I still don't make the Harden trade. I think
I'm not saying it's the same thing.
Again,
or whatever.
I think he sucks this year.
Where's Lillard going if it's not Boston? It's Philly. It's New York. All of a sudden you have like 5 powerhouse teams stacked in front of you if you're Boston, and really no way to surmount that in terms of talent, no matter what Tatum and Brown do on their own there. So
yeah, but you don't necessarily look at that because we play this game all the time. Like, oh, how are they going to get past these guys? How you build the best team you never look at the other people. You build the best team you can.
No, that's relevant too.
With your set of circumstances, you don't just chase to get that guy this year. You're always worried about now, 2 years from now, 4 years from now.
But it's happened how many times in front of you, John? Holiday. You wanted Holiday. Look what Holiday does to Milwaukee.
I know Lonzo. I didn't. I had to argue with you friggin' guys to convince you that he was better than Kemba last year.
Look at what Lonzo did for Chicago and the way he bolsters them. I mean, you
convinced me. For the record, I was convinced.
I told you in the preseason last year. I'm selling all my Kemba stock.
I'd still love Lonzo Ball for this team.
And I wanted Lonzo bad. I would have sold out for Lonzo if we could have found any way to get him here. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's not that good." Oh God, everyone, just shut up.
Hey, and
for this team,
I don't know what it is that people just look at the thing that the guy doesn't do well and be like, "He wouldn't fit here," like, oh my God, Though there were a ton of fans that wanted Lonzo here too, but still.
And that point you made about being able to move Brown down the line, still. It like hammers this home. Do you end up moving him for Beal and make it Lillard, Beal, and Tatum? Does Simmons start to look more enticing in that situation there between Lillard and Tatum? All of a sudden you have like a playmaking 5, a scoring wing, and a lead point guard in that situation there. Like there's just so much more flexibility that gives you as a real deal contending team. And think of the impact on how guys look at the Celtics in terms of buyout players at that time of year. Like this just changes where you are in the league if you make this deal. Could it go wrong? Yes. Kyrie went wrong, but I think almost everybody
still do Kyrie 10 out of 10 times.
And they say they still do it. So that's the point here.
I do Kyrie again and again. That's a trade you had to make.
You gotta hope that they can get involved with something like this, because man, if they don't, they are in trouble.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's interesting to see if it comes up here. I think I pressed the wrong button. I may disappear, but it doesn't mean I'm gone.
John hit
self-destruct. You got a countdown going? Yeah, right.
No, I don't know. We'll see. Am I still here? Yes.
Yeah, you're still here.
Sorry,
yes.
I accidentally pressed the red button, the nuclear button.
Any good quotes tonight? I saw Tatum at the podium.
No, just smart to Josue. That was it.
Yeah, that was
it. Good stuff, Josue.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't hate me. It's the first time I've seen him since the shutdown.
So since he told us to go F ourselves.
Yeah,
that's all right.
He said, "Tell Sherrod." I said, "No, he didn't say that."
No. Yeah, wonder if that's where Sherrod is now. He's talking to him. So we got Phoenix on Friday. We'll be back for that game as well. And then...
I got something. Brandon Boston's talking about going at Smart and getting the technical foul there. He says, "I just told him I'm here."
Oh snap!
Yeah, I missed the taunting call. I didn't see exactly what happened, but those guys are going at it. It was chippy in the beginning, and you could see that, especially with Tatum and the way they were double teaming him, and that one tech. I mean, I thought he was gonna get tossed. He jumped up and just
I thought he was gonna get tossed after he elbowed Grant there. I'm just like, this guy's going too far.
Yeah,
man.
I like seeing that stuff.
Yeah,
I like it.
I mean,
how old is he? 19?
Grant can act. That was some good acting from Grant.
That was impressive stuff from the young guy there.
Yeah. So again, we got Phoenix. Doesn't get any easier here. We are sadly looking at a 1-4 trip if they can't win this here, which is again.
Then it's Milwaukee, Golden State, New York, Philly.
It's a tough stretch, man. You really wanted to go.
Keep coming.
Yeah, you wanted to go 2-3 here at least. This is going to be a really tough one. Again, we'll see whether Jaylen plays or not. We don't know. 10 p.m. tip. Damn it. I was hoping for a 9. We can do it.
Isn't that mountain time? Come on, give us 9.
Give us something. Well, Phoenix switches.
They're balling this year. So
Arizona
like,
goes 2 hours and 3 hours, right? It's one of those weird ones. So I think they're 3 hours at this time of year, and then half the year they're 2 hour difference. There's sometimes. I'm
just picturing the guy for Phoenix being like, "Oh, we're prime time now. Okay, no, we're going at it. We went to the finals. All right, we're not doing those early games anymore." So.
Okay. It's Rasta's birthday on Saturday, so happy birthday in advance, Rasta. We'll see you there.
Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, bro.
But we are back Friday. I don't know how many of us will be here.
Ugly.
It could be. So we'll see what happens there. But again,
thanks
to the people who've been joining us on the West Coast trip here. We've had a pretty good audience throughout. Again, thanks to our sponsors, LinkedIn Talent Solutions here. Go to linkedin.com/garden, post your first job for free. And of course, we have calm.com/garden. It's 40% off, #1 sleep and meditation app, Calm Premium subscription. Once again,
I'm about to go blast that right now.
Yeah, blast that rainforest.
Celtics lose. Yeah, blast the rainforest. Loud, in your ears. Loud, loud, loud. That's how it works best.
Listen, it's a great app.
No, Nick, it's the opposite of an alarm.
Doesn't guarantee you're going to use it well.
And of course, it's blasting for minutes. I'm like, yeah, so it's an alarm, and it woke you right up.
It's the opposite of an alarm.
It woke you right up, didn't it? It's almost like right about to wake up, and he must have just been like right back to sleep, like, right back into it. It's like, yeah, well, why would you set this? Jeez.
So again, Celtics lose to the Clippers, 114-111. Frustrating game. Thanks to everybody who hung out with us. Thanks to Bobby for being along the whole West Coast trip. Josue doing good work out in LA. Again, all of you guys for hanging with us.
Thanks to Nick too, covering a couple of games.
I hope the curse isn't back. Bobby, do you remember the curse? Do you remember the Cosby Street curse?
No, I don't.
He's like, what the hell are you talking about? So the first 11 games I ever covered on the road, the Celtics lost every one of them. So I just thought it's interesting because I haven't covered a game since the shutdown on the road, and the first 2 games I covered, 0-2, baby.
It's Nick. See. It's Nick. It's not you.
It's Nick. He's gonna hate that comment.
It's Nick. Anyway,
he was excited last night.
Yeah, it could be. He was jacked up.
No, I mean, like, he got too into the Laker vibe. I was telling him it was bad vibes coming in because they have Christmas music. They have like ice rink going, so it's like a little plaza here, Staples Center, and like he was all into it. I'm like,
yeah.
But
no, sucked in.
Oh,
yeah, sucked in, right?
I guess we did. We neglected to mention one thing. I'll give it about a 10-sec. We'll talk about it 2 minutes here before we wrap because somebody just mentioned it in the chat. Interesting. There was the tradition. They do this thing, the tradition in Boston. Honoring different athletes every year at the Boston Sports Museum, and Danny Ainge was there. And Ainge gave a quote. That's right. I'm not closing the book on other opportunities, talking about looking for a new role. He says, I don't want to work 18, 20 hours a day, but I could work in some advisory capacity.
Pitching himself, too. I've been in this 40 years. I think I'm
in the game. I'm interested. People want my talents, want my help. I'm more than happy. I think he would like to have some sort of, I think people freaked out about this, like, oh, he's coming back. I don't think he's going to run a team full time, but wouldn't be surprised if he ended up somewhere. I just think it, really reinforces the notion that he was fired because he could have done that here.
That's what it sounds like, right?
Yeah. So
in any case, he's not.
I'm pretty sure the Celtics would have allowed him to continue working here in an advisory capacity. But whatever.
I'm shocked he said that. Shocked he said that. Yeah, because it always felt like it was in his card. I mean, the cards are in his hands, right? He chose this, and he was tired of this, and I even spoke to one of the the Celtics owners who's been there for a long time, and he was adamant. He's like, "Look, this has nothing to do with we fired him or anything like that. He just wants to take a break." And then the rumor started about the Utah thing. No, he's not going to do that. He just wants to take a break. So it's interesting. I mean, that could be the case, but I'm just surprised that he would wait 4 months and already make comments like this. So again, it brings It rings that they.
Well, listen, he could have been done with the Celtics situation and was like, "I'm done with this. I'm not.
This is the best I can do." That could be it too. That could be it too.
Like I think there's those shades of truth to everything that was going on, but the big picture story of in March, Danny having an epiphany and saying, "I'm retiring, and we're gonna make Brad this heir apparent here, and he's gonna coach out this season, and we're gonna find a replacement." Never ever believe that. I never did.
They don't. We said it then, and this comment says it here. They both got fired. But Brad just got fired up.
If you loved your coach, why would he not be your coach anymore?
Yeah, I know, right? Well, maybe they both agreed. Like, look, I need,
I think they agreed in the end after.
Yeah. I believe it was huge.
Yeah, I guess he didn't be like, I can't make the situation any better, and Brad's just like, dude, me too.
I think it made sense for everybody.
And again, this team, they don't even listen to me anymore, man. Like, I don't know what the hell happened. Like,
that was the sentiment of Brad at the time. I'm excited to get someone new in here with some fresh perspective and lay that on the team here. And I'm sure he was happy to continue to collect the salary that he was in that head coaching capacity in a different role, but he was willing and able and did a good job over the offseason, I thought. Probably better than I think anybody could have expected with the resources that he had, the incredible Kemba Horford trade. It was just a job well done by Brad, and feels like, at least for now, he's in that role for, I don't want to say the long haul, but longer than I thought it was possible there. So, I'll give Brad some credit in terms of the transition. It was a quick one. I know people were crapping on the draft pick here, but I spoke to coaches in Vegas who were very impressed by the prospect that he picked up at 45. He's playing well in Paris. We're not going to figure out that one for years from now. So hold off on the Boston flag waving, because, again, we did it for Mo Brown, and Mo Brown's in the G League. So hold it on one-game reactions on prospects that you passed on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fair. I'm not doing Yam Madar talk right now, though. Just not doing
How's he doing in Serbia?
Yeah, I'm just not doing it. Anyway, people were mentioning that they wanted us to talk Ainge, so we did want to talk about it quickly, but we are going to wrap it. We've been going a long time. It's 2:40 on a school night. I got to get the kids up and ready for school tomorrow. So we're going to wrap it.
They're waking me up in like 3 hours, 4 hours.
Yeah, like three and a half hours. Something like that. But it's all good. Again, make sure you subscribe to all our YouTube channels. I'll have a ton of content over there. Josue and Nick will have their reports filed from LA.
Yes,
we've got all of the post-game reaction, and we'll have a much more stuff coming out in the next couple of days. And, of course, we're back with you on Friday for the Suns. Again, for Josue Pavon from Heavy.com, CLNS Media, Bobby Manning, Boston Sports Journal, CLNS Media, John Zannis, we are out. We will see you